Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us this afternoon for this webinar from the Innovation Enterprise Zone on behalf of Staffordshire University. My name is Lynne Williams. I'm a lecturer with Staffordshire Business School, and I believe that innovation is really important. So the next 40 minutes is going to be time well spent, hopefully on your part. It's really important, probably more so now than ever, in terms of pre-pandemic, and we'll talk a little bit about that during the webinar. In terms of the webinar itself, it's called Innovation in Action, so we're not just going to talk about the theory of innovation, but we're also going to hear a real-life experience in terms of how innovation works in a business. So we'll go through that too. In terms of the team this afternoon, I'm joined by, bear with me. I'm joined by video actually with a lady called Pin Bragg, who's founder of a company called the cabanaclub, and Pin actually started her business through the BeInspired program, which you'll hear a little bit more about later. And I'm also joined by Steve Hargreaves, Employer Partnerships Development Manager. Steve, if you'd just like to introduce yourself, if that's okay.
Yes, sure. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Steve Hargreaves. I'm the Employer Partnership Manager here at Staffordshire University. I work exclusively on the innovation and enterprise part of the university, and I'll be discussing at the end some of our projects and some of the ways you can get involved with the university and some of the funding that we have. So I look forward to joining the end of this webinar and discussing that in more detail.
Okay, thanks, Steve. And I did mention we'll be joined on video with Pin, and it's a video that we did together probably 6 or 8 weeks ago. But Pin, although she's not with us today, she was very keen to provide a sort of a reach out contact point for any new startups or any entrepreneurs that we might have in the audience. So you'll notice there on this slide, I've also put her email address. So if you think that might be a useful follow-up point for you, she would, I'm sure, be very pleased to hear from you. And finally, although I've not noted her on this slide, so sorry, Anna, we're joined also by Anna. So Anna's in the background providing essential technical support, but she's also noting all of your questions. So questions normally we will pick up right at the end, if that's okay, but please go ahead and pop them into the chat, and Anna will sort of be funneling those through to us at the end of the session. Okay, so let's just talk about what topics we're going to cover briefly. So we're going to have a look at what innovation is, but not also what it is, why it matters right now. As I mentioned, it probably matters more so now than it ever has done previously. So let's understand a little bit about why that is. We're going to touch on some of the innovation tools that you can think about adopting, whatever size of organisation, whether you're a new startup, whether you're an SME, or whether you're a large organisation. These are innovation tools that fit all sizes. I'm also going to provide some top tips in terms of innovation. And this really, I think, is a few takeaway points for yourself from today. So you can have a little think about referencing where your own organisation is against some of those tools and tips. We will hear from Pin, as I've mentioned, so we have a short video which is about 10 minutes that we'll go through, and towards the end of the session Steve will talk to us a little bit more about how you might get involved with some of the programs we have here at the Innovation Enterprise Zone. So what is it you can actually do to develop your inner innovator? And as I've said throughout the session, I'd really appreciate you just thinking through what is it you might do, what action can you take after today to help your business be more innovative. So the good news is we have some great content. We have a great real life example. The challenge might be how we fit all of that into roughly half an hour to 40 minutes, but we'll see how we go, and hopefully we'll cover all of the topics anyway. We have put some time aside at the end for questions, so please don't let that put you off asking any questions. So if you are ready, which I hope you are, let's dive right in and think a little bit more about what innovation is. So this is quite a busy slide, but if you think about the left-hand side just for a few minutes, what we have here is the typical sort of idea generation or light bulb moment, as some people think about it. So that, to some extent, is the creative part of innovation. But creativity and idea generation isn't the same as innovation. It's part of it, but generating lots of ideas is only one step towards innovation. Innovation is actually bringing an idea to life by delivering it. So it's taking one of those little ideas or one of those light bulb moments and actually taking it through to fruition, where it's delivered and implemented as part of your business strategy. So you can see on the right-hand side, we've got represented 3 important dimensions of how you might do that within a business environment. So if you're thinking about a particular idea, it's about ensuring that your idea is desirable, firstly, by some way, whether that's potential customers, whether that's existing customers, and why is it desirable? Is it a particular problem or improvement that you're trying to make, or is it something completely new that you're trying to put out there into the market? So knowing your customers or potential customers is critical. And that comes with the insights that you have into your customers. So creating that understanding of what it is you're trying to achieve and for who is that first point of call in terms of your idea. The second point is really the feasibility of it. So it must be feasible in terms of either the manufacture or delivery of the idea. And then finally, linked to the other 2 aspects, it should be viable in terms of the commercial impact to your business. So you have the investment and you can financially take it to market and hopefully make a return. And you can see in the center there, there's almost a sweet spot where innovation actually happens for real in an organization. So it's helpful not to confuse the 2 in terms of creativity and innovation. They are 2 separate things, but they are part of bringing a great idea to the market. So in summary, innovation is creativity and delivery. If any of you wanted to dip into any additional reading, a book that's worth looking at is one called How Innovation Works, and it's by a guy called Matt Ridley. He's a leading journalist and he's authored this most recent work. And he talks about innovation not as this sort of overnight light bulb moment, but he also talks about it as a gradual process, something that's quite often trial and error, and also something that can't be done in isolation. It has to be a team sport, and it has to be done in collaboration with other people. And so to some extent, that idea of an invention, if you like, which happens overnight is quite often a myth. So people might have great ideas, but taking them through to innovation or fruition is something quite separate. Even Thomas Edison, with his eureka moment as he launched out of the bath and ran down the road, said it's 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. And when we hear from Pin in a short while, you'll certainly hear how true that has been for her business. I just want to spend a couple of minutes thinking about the types of innovation, because whether you are in business currently or whether you're thinking about creating your own startup business, when you think about innovation, there's different ways that you can apply it across your business. So let's just walk through each of these just quite briefly. The first one is typically known as product innovation, sometimes called proposition innovation, but typically product innovation. And this is the one that most people can connect with easily. Everyone sort of gets this type of innovation. It's a shiny new thing. It's something generally people can touch or hold or see. And if you think about probably things that you have around you right now, like a mobile phone, typically with people like LG and Apple making all sorts of changes to mobile phones, whether it's foldable, whether it's brand switching, they are taking a product and innovating it to that next level. And of course, they're doing it, if we remember back to our first slide, they're doing it because there's a desirability from the customer in terms of that new product. And typically what we know from recent research is that this is where many SMEs have been pivoting their propositions both during and post-pandemic. We then have business model innovation. So this is slightly different in that it's about getting your money from a different place in the value chain in your business. So finding new ways of capturing value through your business. If we take one example that you might be familiar with, let's take Peloton. They were a fitness equipment organization, but they've recently taken over the globe by storm, particularly during the pandemic. And what they essentially did was take something that's quite often a static activity. So typically people would buy a fitness bike. Within 2 or 3 months, they might get tired of it. It probably ends up in the loft. I'm sure we've all sort of experienced that. And what they looked to do was actually to create a virtual environment where people could engage on a regular basis, not only with instructors, but with a community that they could build up and actually be part of that in a live environment. So they moved their business from a simple fitness equipment business to a fitness experience business. And they found a need based on customer desirability or a customer problem, and they filled it. And most of that business model innovation, if you think about it, came from their own insights in terms of their own customers. And then finally, we've got process innovation. So this is the one that's sometimes overlooked. It's really the ability to deliver what you want to deliver at often radically lower costs or maybe with a better experience. And interestingly, again, in terms of SMEs, typically about 4 in 10 small and medium businesses in the UK are now prioritising process innovation, typically through IT infrastructure. So it's probably worth you also thinking about those 3 types of innovation and just considering what type maybe you have experienced as a customer or as a business owner or being part of an organisation, and maybe what is it your own organisation is crying out for now in terms of moving forward. Is it product innovation? Is it something that you need to pivot in terms of your overall proposition? Is it more about how you create value through your business model? Or is it really developing that process innovation? And maybe that is, for example, through an improved IT infrastructure. So that's all great in terms of starting to understand what innovation is and the types of innovation. But I guess your next question might be, well, why would I put time and effort into this? Why does it actually even matter? And I've said probably 2 or 3 times, it probably matters more now than it ever has done. So we know that based on the pandemic, everybody's lives were thrown into complete disarray. And we all had to find new ways to do things. And so the pandemic forced change. It not only forced change, though, it ignited new innovations. And some people have said it forced a decade of change in 12 months. It certainly, even based on our own experiences, personal experiences, it certainly has escalated and brought forward lots of touch points in terms of how you shop, how you commute, where you live, where you work, how you communicate with others. So it has touched all aspects of both personal and business lives. So whilst there are still many scenarios for how globally we move out of the crisis, it's certain that innovation is critical in terms of creating an organisation that's resilient, giving an organisation the ability to predict, to react and to respond to changing customer needs, creating a best first strategy, not just a first mover strategy, and not just the ability to pivot, but to pivot your business wisely, reducing costs, improving performance, and increasing profits. So on the right, we have some significant figures. If you're a large organisation, you may be interested to know that nearly 90% of global CEOs recognise that innovation is extremely important to their business, post-COVID. Not mildly important, not on a list of 50 other things to do, but extremely important. Interestingly, but it's not a figure that I've actually put on this slide, only 10% of those same global organisations would say that they innovate well within their organisation. And for those of you that might be in a large organisation, quite often that can be because large organisations are often slower to react. They're sometimes process heavy with complicated bureaucratic processes. They sometimes don't know quite where or how to get hold of innovation and how to get it moving across the organisation. So if you are in a large organisation, you might find yourself stuck in terms of innovation and knowing quite where to start. Interestingly, also across large organisations, 85% believe that the pandemic will have a lasting effect on their customer needs and wants over the next 5 years. So that's nearly all large organisations recognising that the impact of the pandemic will continue for the next 5 years and developing a strategy to allow them to innovate more quickly, change their product, change their processes, change their business models is critical, not only for their growth, but their survival. Then we move to that third statistic down. So this is really between sort of 75 and 85%, but across various sectors, again, large organisations believe that the pandemic is the #1 opportunity for growth. So not only has it forced quite often undesirable consequences the organisations have had to deal with, but they also recognise that it's actually forced through change, giving them opportunity to grow as an organisation. That growth won't happen without innovation. For those of you in a small or medium enterprise, then the impact is potentially even higher. So we come to that figure there of 90%. And SMEs account for 90% of businesses globally. That's quite an amazing figure, actually. And around about 70% of employment globally. And recent research shows that 77% of UK SME business owners have listed innovation as a key priority to power their recovery. And not only are they recognising the importance of innovation, about 1 in 5 are putting more budget and resource to innovation, and some have increased that budget by over 50%. So they're recognising that actually what you have to do is realistically make innovation a tangible part of your strategy, so that you are setting aside resources, you're putting it into part of your strategy, and you're setting targets for how you move forward with innovation. So again, if you're in an SME, the question is, have you already considered this? I now want to pick up on that innovation in action and introduce you to Pin Bragg and the video that we created together a few weeks ago. And you'll hear from Pin her own personal experience of how innovation came about to start her own organisation and what it means to her now she's a couple of years into that organisation. So I hope you enjoy this video. Just give me 1 second to set it up. Here we go.
My company is cabanaclub. I originally started back in 2018 from an idea I had whilst floating on a lilo in a pool in Spain. As it always happens, your pool float pops and then you get really annoyed that you've got to go buy a new one, you've got to throw one away, and your happy floating time is unfortunately over. So after a few glasses of wine with my husband, we sat and decided that creating a pool float that you could reuse over and over again and replacing the inflatable parts, making it more user-friendly and more sustainable for the environment. We thought that would be a great place to start, and that was our starting point. Coming from a hospitality background, I I managed a couple of resorts in the South Pacific, in Vanuatu, and you notice there firsthand how much rubbish we as tourists leave behind, from all your shampoo bottles and everything that you take with you, all the way down to you're either still inflated full floats or your popped ones that are just now a heap of plastic. So, you know, and, you know, if you start adding that up, how many people go on holiday, how many people leave their lilos discarded, it soon adds up to a huge, hefty amount of plastic. In fact, the UK alone, we leave the equivalent plastic abroad in the form of a lilo that equals, I think it's 8 double-decker buses. So it's a lot. It's a big impact. You just don't think you with your little lilo or your giant swan or even your armbands for your kids, it all adds to that plastic waste. And that was the real kickstart for me as to why I decided to go and do Cabana Club.
So that's a great place to have an innovative idea, isn't it? I've got a picture of you now floating around on that lovely pool with the sun shining down. But sometimes it just doesn't happen that way, does it? Innovative ideas. So obviously we're talking about innovation in business today, Pin, and really it would be good just to understand a little bit more about what innovation means to you.
So to me, I think in order to stay current, in order to stay and help the world move forward, whether it is in design or whether it is even in the automatronics of everything, you've got to keep innovating and keeping moving forward and creating new ideas and new solutions to problems, because we do create a lot of problems in the UK and the globe. As humans, we make more problems than we do solutions. So you've constantly got to be innovative to keep on top of those problems that we create for ourselves.
And clearly you kicked off your business with an innovative idea lying there on your lilo. But what since that point, what's innovation meant to your business?
I think as you move forward, when you start on this magical journey that we call entrepreneurship, you start with an idea, and step by step, whether you want to be innovative or it just naturally happens, you have to progress, and so moving that forward, and find you walk down so many roads doing this process. A lot of them are dead ends. 99.9% of them are dead ends. But you have to do that to get to that point of innovation, to where you can take it up that next step, and then you're back to your next 99 roads, and then you whittle that one down again. So it's very much a trial and error sort of thing, but it's from where you start to where you finish is two completely different places, and that's all through collaboration, which is, I think, it's very important in innovation, but also your own personal journey that everybody takes when you're trying to produce a new innovative product, because you're not copying somebody, you are stepping out of the mold, you are going out there and giving it a go. And you know, it is worth it. It's hard, it's worth it.
And what is it you think that helps in terms of being an innovator? Is it a skill set? Is it a personality? What is it that drives that, do you think?
I think it's a skill set is a fraction of it. I think it's the drive. It's the want to make a difference. If you're passionate about something, I'm really passionate about the environment and sustainability and how we can make the world a better place. That's my passion. So, you know, I'll be sat watching something really random on the telly, and I'll go, oh God, and I've got a notebook that I sit and I scribble ideas down in. My husband finds it ridiculous, but I sit there and I'm, oh God, that's a really good idea. Or phrases that I'll put on the website because I'm building the website. So that's, you know, see that all immersive passion about it really helps.
So clearly innovation is the exciting bit in terms of an idea or a concept, or grab hold of something that maybe nobody else has thought about. But there's clearly a whole load of hard work that goes with it in terms of bringing it to life?
Yeah, it's hard work. It's like the analogy of the swan gliding on the surface, but its feet are doing this, and that is what it's all about. Like, everybody sees this wonderful product and go, "Wow, that's amazing," and then, "Oh God, I'd love to do that," and it is, and it's fabulous. But all the stuff that goes on in the background, like the flapping of the feet, it's a lot. It's a lot. But
talk us a little bit more about that product innovation you've just mentioned.
So, I mean, taking things that everybody uses every day, but then finding a way that makes it more durable, more sustainable, more easy to use, all of those things. If you sit down with a pad and a pen and go through that process and try and come up with innovative ideas that will kind of help to improve other people's lives at the end of the day, help businesses' bottom lines by making less waste, as well as the planet's bottom line, because you're making less waste. You know, it's all of those things, and it's a lot of thinking and a lot of sitting and you know, sitting there with your innovation cap on and going, how can I make this better? It's trial and error, isn't it? You think of something and then you write it down, and you might leave it for 6 months even, but then always keep that book, keep going back to it, because as time goes on, and everybody's inventing new things all of the time, and new processes, new procedures, and if you can utilize the new stuff into your old stuff, then that's another innovative thing that you can do, because what might not work this year, somebody might develop something, and then you can jump in on that, and it'll help your products become even more innovative and more fabulous. As innovation goes, when you're making something new, something that other people haven't seen before, and you're like, I've made that from my head. Like it's a fantastic feeling. Yeah, so don't give up. Be prepared to wear all of the hats.
You just mentioned then starting with this is a problem sort of statement. Is that generally how it kicks off in your mind, that you're trying to solve a problem?
Yeah, that is. I kind of, yeah, I always say to when someone says to me, "Oh, the fridge is broken," I'll go, give me a solution, don't give me a problem. And that's how my brain works. I don't want to go, "Oh God, there's another problem." I want to go, how can we fix this problem? And I think that is a really great place to start with when it comes to innovation. Is kind of, instead of thinking that's a problem, think, how can I fix that problem?
Okay, so I'm sure you'll agree that Pin's enthusiasm and energy is pretty contagious. So in terms of anybody who does want to get in touch with her, obviously, she has made the offer out there, not only in terms of innovation guidance specifically for this webinar, but she has put the offer out there in terms of just being a point of contact for people who might be thinking about going into their own business startup or venturing on that sort of entrepreneurial pathway. So her details will remain on the slides. So Pin makes some good points there in terms of how innovation comes to her, in terms of the sort of tools and techniques that she uses, using simple things like a notepad, putting her ideas down, leaving them maybe for 6 months and then taking one of those ideas forward, or trying lots of ideas and being prepared to fail with some of those ideas, because that is also part of the creative and innovative process and thought process. So she makes those points, I think, really well, and I hope you've taken something from that video. She also talks a little bit about her top tips, and that's one of the things I'm going to share with you in a couple of minutes, because I've sort of compiled a number of essentials or top tips for you to think about. But before I go on to do that, I just wanted to cover a little bit about some of the innovation tools that you might find useful for your own startup or your own current organization. And I want to do this by focusing particularly on a concept called design thinking. And you may or may not have come across this previously. It's very accessible. It's quite easy to consider and to think about and to use. It's very practical in its approach. And it started live a good number of years ago over at Stanford University. And it's been developed since then. And large organizations can use it, small organizations can use it, would-be startups can use it. So it's accessible in lots of ways. And it's one of the key tools that we offer through the Innovation Enterprise Zone. And the way in which we position it is that it's a number of tools that spread across two main aspects of design thinking. And that's the problem space and the solution space. And hopefully you can see those at the top of the slide there. And within the problem space, and you heard Pin talk about this, within the problem space, what you're trying to do is gather a really specific need in terms of either the problem you're trying to solve, the need that you're trying to satisfy, the improvement that you're trying to make, but you're trying to be as clear as you possibly can be in terms of what that exactly is, before you then get into that central point there where you can see the ideate, before you start creating lots of ideas. Now, quite often, you might have ideas that actually don't fit a problem, but they might be one of those ideas on that basis that you never quite take forward. So a really useful starting point, as Pin said, is to start ideally with what is it that your customers are currently struggling with? What is it you see other people struggle with? What is it you struggle with? And what would actually make something easier or better or more desirable for you or your customers? Because chances are what you will then do is create ideas which will reflect what it is you're trying to do. So the first three phases then is about this empathize phase, which is really just understanding your customer in more detail, and then defining what it is that you think that customer wants and defining that customer group specifically, and then starting to gather those ideation phases, all of those ideas, some of which you're going to throw out, some of which you're going to use, and some of which you may come back to in 6 or 12 months' time. And what this then starts to do is take you into that delivery phase. So when we started on the webinar, we talked about the fact that creativity, obviously, and delivery bring together innovation. And so this model really helps to set that through, because once you've then started to generate your ideas, you're in a great place to start and prototype and test them. And there's a number of ways in which you can do that, but it's always going back to that defining the customer need. So that is always your framework of reference in terms of testing your potential ideas. Do they actually satisfy what it is you're trying to set out to do? So let me just briefly set out some of the tools that we offer in the Innovation Enterprise Zone, and also which you have access to, and Steve will explain a little bit more about that. In terms of empathizing, we use aspects like user personas and stakeholder mapping and mapping customer journeys. In ideation, we use a whole range of different brainstorming and crowdsourcing techniques. And in prototype and testing, we have incredible facilities to support both of those phases and experts on hand to help you through those final phases. So we have a full suite of innovation tools that can really take a problem statement or a need or a desire to create something for your customer, right through to the idea stage, and then right through into testing stage for feasibility. And so those are some of the tools in which you can actually access a number of CPD sessions through Staff's Uni. But I also wanted to provide you, as well as thinking about those tools and how you might follow up on that, I also wanted to provide you with some top tips, just really for you to think about testing the current status of your own organisation against. And these are, to a certain extent, are a what and a how, if you like. So the top four are what, and the bottom four really are how. And when I've talked to a number of entrepreneurs and startups, and PIN included, some of these words tend to come out time and time again. So it's about having, I guess, an aspiration in terms of setting yourself very clear innovation targets. So this is about aspiring and mobilizing to some extent. So make innovation part of your strategy. Don't have it as a side activity. Make sure it's grounded in your strategy. Make sure it's part of your strategic decision making, so it becomes absolutely central to your business, rather than getting to a point where you have to force new ideas through. So innovation should exist as part of, centrally as part of your organization, and live day to day in the organization. If we just pick out also discover, this is about how you are constantly scanning your business environment. So going beyond what it is your customer wants today, how is it you get insight that tells you what your customer wants tomorrow? So that insight is really that competitive advantage, because that gives you a place to think about in terms of your new innovations, and certainly should put you in a better place than your competitors. Again, if you don't have that sort of macro scanning ability in your organization, and you're not clear how you tap into the insights of your customers, that's something you do need to think about. And then finally, I'll pick the one labeled extend at the bottom. So this is a point that's come out a number of times. Matt Ridley talks about it in his book a lot. Most of the entrepreneurs that I've interviewed also talk about it, and that's collaboration. So Matt Ridley talks about innovation being a team sport, and I mentioned that a short while ago. And this really is about how you as an individual, or how your organization, become a partner of choice. So how do you put yourself out there so you can open up innovation and create collaborations, whether that's inside your organization or outside of your organization, that drives new ideas, that drives improvements, and that drives collaborative innovation. So that's absolutely key. So using these what and how really are a helpful reference point just to take stock of where you might be in your own organization, or some of the actions you might want to think about taking in your own organization. So let me just start to wrap up before I hand you over to Steve. So we've talked about, we've talked about what innovation is and why it matters for startups, SMEs, and large organizations. And I hope I've been able to cover all of your potential perceptions on that basis. We've introduced the idea of innovation tools and tips to help your business be better at innovation. And we've heard about a real world experience of innovation from PIN. So I guess all that's left for you to think about is, what is it you need to do now, and how do you make sure your own organization has the innovation capability it needs for the future? And that's about how you develop your own inner innovator, whether that's you personally or whether that's within your organization. So let me hand you over to Steve in terms of talking you through how the Innovation Enterprise Zone might be part of supporting that journey for you.
Thanks very much, Lynn. That was really interesting. I think collaboration is key in my experience of working in innovation for the last 5 years. The best innovators don't do it alone. They do reach out and work with partners and work with universities and really make some good traction. And in Staffordshire, we've had lots of success stories over the years from really good companies starting up, a bit like cabanaclub and others that have really embraced innovation and worked with university partners and really made a difference to their business. So it's my pleasure really today to run through some of the support that Staffordshire University could offer your business. A lot of the support is actually fully funded at no cost to your business. So if any of the things I mentioned are of interest, please feel free to get in touch with us after the webinar. So we have lots of support, as you can see from the photographs there. We do have facilities as well, and I'll run through those. So we do have funded support for prototyping, So if you are a business who is innovating and creating new products and new services, then we've got a project that specialises in helping you to develop that product. We've got lots of facilities in our innovation enterprise zone here at the university, and you'll have full access to those, plus a graduate of engineering or product design, and they will do the innovations with you using our facilities, and that could be free of charge if you are an SME in the Staffordshire area. We also specialise in innovations in transport, logistics and mobility. We have a big pot of funding available for businesses who want to develop new innovations in smart and intelligent mobility. So if you've got any ideas that you think can make things better for transport, for movement of goods and services, for new products, then please just reach out to us and we'll chat to you about our provision. The next information I want to give you is about our startup hatchery. So if you do work at home at the moment and you're looking for office space, we have a hatchery at the university where it's £65 a month, and you can rent a desk there, and you can be mixing with other innovators and other businesses. There's quite a network that we've got here at the university. It's a very nice office. It's fully equipped, and you just turn up with your laptop and you can work from the university and use the facilities as well. We've also got private offices. If you're a bigger business and you want desks in your own office, we have private offices available at the university, and please speak to us about the prices and availability of that. And as I said, we've got specialist equipment, and we've got a huge array of equipment here at the university. If you do want some equipment, please ask us and we'll give you a quote to use that. We also have CPD available at the university. We've got some funding where we can give you a free course for your staff members, as long as you're an SME in Staffordshire. We have a number of free courses that we can put you on that will help your own CPD as a person, but also as a business. So what we have at the moment, we have leadership, we have cybersecurity, and we also have Amazon Web Services, but quite shortly we'll have lots more courses available. So again, please keep in touch with us and check our social media, and we'll be promoting all the available courses for you. We do also have apprenticeships. So if you are interested in apprenticeships, we are one of the market leaders for apprenticeships. We've got a range of apprenticeships from level 5 right through to level 7, and please speak to us about your needs, and we will help you to get the right apprenticeship for you or your business. So we do also hire student and graduate talent as university. We've got our own agency called Unitemps that actually just won the branch of the year this year. What they do is help you to find and advertise and recruit the right talent for your business. They've also got a payroll service which they can use if you want to payroll the student through ourselves. So really great service. So if you are looking for somebody temporary or longer term, then please speak to us about hiring graduate talent. I just wanted to mention the BeInspired program as well, because Pin, who spoke earlier, actually went onto this program. This program encourages graduates from the Staffordshire area to set up businesses and offers a lot of mentoring and support and hand-holding. It's a 6-month program where there's a grant available as well. So if you're in that idea stage of your business, you're thinking about starting, but you've not quite done it yet, then a program like BeInspired can really help you, as it did with Pin from cabanaclub, as she mentioned earlier. And also we do work with large employers as well. A lot of the funding is for SMEs, but we also do work with large employers for apprenticeships, for training, and for innovation. We do offer KTPs for SMEs and large businesses. Those both require a contribution from the business, but we can tap into government funding to contribute the majority of that. So again, if you've got any ideas that don't fit into any of the other categories, there is other funding available sort of nationally that we can tap into. Can you go to the next slide, please, Lynn? So again, I've got some photos there of the hatchery, actually, the meeting room that's available there in the top right-hand corner, and there's another photo there of the some of the equipment there that we have in one of the projects. That's one of our robotic arms in action. So we have lots of webinars. You can join any of our future webinars at no cost. We have our website which outlines all of our services, and that's on your screen at the moment. You can download our brochure and you can look at our upcoming events on the web link on the slide there. So we would like to thank you for your time.